Welcome to Plastic Model Mojo, a podcast dedicated to scale modeling, as well as the news and events around the hobby, where we hope to be informative and entertaining and help you keep your modeling mojo alive. Dave, we're back for episode 42 of Plastic Model Mojo.
Yep, and it's going well for any number of reasons that we'll get through. We'll get to throughout this episode, but I got to say the Mojo is running strong. The model sphere is hitting on all cylinders, and my only problem is that I don't have enough time to do everything I want to do.
Do we ever?
No, absolutely not. But it was good to see you on July 4th.
It was. We had a good time.
Yes, we did.
Very nice.
I managed to fill up your teenage boys with enough food that kept them full for at least an hour.
Just about an hour. Then they were hungry again. Well, you mentioned Model Sphere. What you got going on?
As far as my modeling's moving forward. We'll get to that in the bench section of the episode. I'm feeling the juice. I'm feeling the desire to model, the joy that I get out of it when I do model. So, all in all, that's all pretty darn positive. Again, the only thing I'm struggling with is trying to make sure that I get enough time to actually get in and model. How about you?
Well, I'm getting ready for the Nationals, Dave. I'm trying to get our gear ready to go and make sure we got all those bases covered, and looking through all the emails of folks who say they're going to stop by and say hi.
Yep.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. You need to go to the local Hooters and hire a couple of girls as roadies to pack all our stuff out to Vegas. How's that for an idea?
I think on some level that's a good idea, and on some level it's a very, very bad one.
Yeah, I don't think we could sneak that past the wives.
I don't think so.
And besides, I'm not sure Hooters waitresses would make good roadies.
They may not.
So, Mike, as if I didn't know, what is your modeling fluid of choice tonight?
Well, it's a great story, and I know what you're drinking too tonight. We are... Well, I am. If you're not, you can fess up later. Weller Special Reserve.
Oh, God.
Which is you enjoying that?
Yes.
It's another bourbon from the Weller family out of it's currently being distilled at Buffalo Trace down in Frankfort, Kentucky, where I don't work anymore. Frankfort, that is, not Buffalo Trace.
Right.
And this... It's really good, and this comes to us through an interesting avenue. Right before the weekend, 4th of July weekend, we made it apparent on our prior episode that I would be joining you in Louisville for your 4th of July pool party and cookout. A listener local here from Versailles, Kentucky, spelled just like Versailles, but we don't pronounce it that way in Kentucky.
That's right.
Mr. Ethan Curd. He's actually a car modeler out of Versailles and happens to work at Buffalo Trace Distillery. And he said he had a gift for us to kick off the holiday weekend with. And I met him on the way to your house, and he handed me a brown bag with all the distillery's logo on it. I didn't know what was in it until I pulled it out. And Ethan, I can't thank you enough. That was a very generous gesture, and we are sure enjoying it.
Amen, brother. Amen. Yes. I am drinking Weller Special Reserve as well. When Mike got here, he had the full bottle, and as it happened, I had an empty Weller bottle that I had saved. So Mike poured half into my bottle, and this is the first time I was afraid that if I had any before tonight's episode, I would have drunk it all by the time we got to tonight's episode. So even though I've had this since July 4th, this is the first time that I've had it from the current current stash. And this stuff, as I told Mike before we started recording, when you taste this stuff, it makes you wonder if all of the other stuff you've been drinking is really bourbon. This stuff is magical. It just smooth. And Mike tells me that the Weller 12 year, which I haven't had, is even better.
Well, the flavor profile is very similar, but the Weller 12, to my palate, doesn't have the heat. So it's just a little more mellow from the age, but the flavoring, the palate is very similar. But Ethan, thanks, man. I'm sure we'll be in touch.
We salute you, sir. You are doing the Lord's work. Thank you very, very much.
All right. Well, it was looking like listener mail was going to be a little light first week into this fortnight, as our Australian friends say. But in the last 10 days or so, it kind of self-corrected.
It's probably the holiday weekend.
It probably was. So we got lots of listener mail. Some of it's going to have some good discussion here.
Good.
All right. Well, first up is Mr. Kenneth Reed, and Kenneth is from Tuttle, Oklahoma. And he's been enjoying catching up on the podcast, and says it honestly got his mojo flowing.
Great.
Ken says he's up to episode 28, where he mentioned possibly getting some merchandise. And he says he believes it was you that said something about a PMM tumbler or coaster, and he'd love to be able to get some.
I am working on that project. I do plan in the near future, hopefully, to get some Plastic Model Mojo bourbon tumblers produced. But with, as I said, life's been real busy lately, so that project's on the back burner, but it will be happening.
You got any coasters left?
I've got coasters, so forward me his email and we'll get him a coaster and sticker.
All right, that sounds good. Up next is Bob Hallinger, and he doesn't provide his location, but he's got a 717 zip code, so that's somewhere in...
You mean area code?
Yes, area code. That's somewhere in south central Pennsylvania, so that would be like Harrisonburg, York, Gettysburg, those kind of places.
Yeah.
What's he got going on? He's enjoying our episodes with John Miller from Model Paint Solutions, and that prompted him to contact John and order a Harder and Steenbeck package with all the goodies. Nice. And he says he gave us full credit, so...
Well, Dr. Strangebrush will be on an upcoming episode fairly soon. So if you've enjoyed the past ones, there's another one coming.
All right. And he says all your work for IPMS USA has worked. He's joined the IPMS and he's registered for Vegas.
Yes, got another one.
And he will attend his first local chapter meeting, Central PA IPMS, about 45 minutes from his home. Well, 45 minutes, that's not too bad. I mean, if you lived in a big city, that might be 12 miles, right?
Yeah, exactly. That is not bad at all. That is not bad at all. And
that's closer than I am to our club.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I'm telling you guys that if you can find and participate in a local chapter, you should do so. It adds another dimension to your modeling hobby. So,
and you'll make a lot of friends.
You will, yes.
And after 25 years, you can start a podcast. Or whatever we're doing in 25 years.
Yeah, that's right. God knows what it'll be then.
Yeah, it'll be a Sonic cast or something like that.
Yeah. Beamed directly into your brain.
John Ozyka is back from Pahrump, Nevada, and he heard our conversation about first airbrushes, and it's episode 41. And he mentions his first airbrush was a Badger 150, which isn't bad for first airbrush.
No.
It was the aerosol cans we were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And how they would freeze up and run out quickly and provide uneven spray pressures. Well, what he says he did, was he inflated an inner tube with a bicycle pump and hooked the airbrush directly to that and put it under his bench and actually put his foot on it to control the pressure.
I have heard of that. That's old school. That's the way we used to do it back in the old days.
That's before my time.
Another trick was taking those pressurized cans and putting them in a tin of hot water to get more spray out of them.
You'd get more. You get it all at once.
Well, you did that to get the after you had used it partially. You did that to get the rest out at a better pressure.
All right, up next is William Chill, and William Chill is from Sweden.
That is a great name. In the history of names, that's a great name, Bill Chill.
Bill Chill from Sweden. Hope he's chill in Sweden.
Yeah,
It's probably, 70 there, maybe?
maybe.
He's going back through the back catalog too, and he's up to episode 26. And that's when we had a listener talk about how to manage several hobbies when they're competing for your time. And he says it sounded harsh, but too many competing influences gets draining. And my advice was, well, I don't know if it was advice or my example was that I ended up giving up one of them.
Yeah.
And he's got the kind of a checklist, well, not a checklist, but a possible solutions list of ways to do this. One is to accommodate all of them by setting up a schedule and focus on one activity per month or week and set up a rotation or what. And he tried this, and as a result, not too successful. If he's supposed to be painting a particular month, and I mean on canvas or whatever, not
right.
model painting, but he was in the mood to do writing or modeling or vice versa, it just all kind of fell apart, right?
Yeah, because hobbies that is a great point. Hobbies are in some respects mood based, and so if you're in the mood to do one thing and you've got a schedule and your schedule says do something else, that can take away from the enjoyment of the hobby, which is the point of the whole thing.
True. It's the second method to deal with this kind of blew up in his face too. He created a matrix of activities and scoring them on a scale of 1 to 10 with categories such as enjoyment factor, sense of community, potential for secondary income, cost, intellectual stimulation, etc. And then adding up the score. And for his result, it was painting and writing that scored the highest. But he didn't want to give up modeling. So that didn't work out either.
Well, and that just goes to show you head and heart are not always in the same place.
That's true.
I mean,
especially when you throw that secondary income nugget in there, that can really skew things.
Yes. Well, and we've all known modelers who have gone into the business of modeling in one way or another, and that's a real hard balance to handle, because once it becomes your job and a source of income, then no matter what mood you're in, you've got to get to work, and it becomes work. So yeah, balancing multiple hobbies is really, really difficult. But my advice to anybody who's dealing with that is do what you're in the mood to do when you're in the mood to do it. And if that's what you do, you're going to get enjoyment. And that's the whole point of any hobby, is to get enjoyment and relaxation. And if you're not getting enjoyment and relaxation out of it, step back and maybe reassess a little bit. Although I'm not sure doing a spreadsheet, man, that's hardcore.
That is. That's like picking a job or house or something.
Yeah, exactly. We could see the uncle doing that, couldn't we?
I could see me doing it, and it had the same result. It's hard to be honest with yourself doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So the net of it, he stopped doing photography because that wasn't in his DNA. His hobby interest kind of DNA.
Right.
And he stopped writing mostly. He was progressing, but he's thrown out his ambitions to get published.
Mm-hmm.
The modeling is you kind of do it for yourself, and he kind of got to the point where he's decided to be a modeler.
Well, good. And one thing he might consider is there is a subgenre in modeling where, there are these magazines and blogs, as we talked with Stephen Lee last episode. That's an outlet for your writing skills or writing abilities. Stephen just started a blog, and that's where he wrote. And when he had longer form ideas, he wrote, and it satisfied his writing craving as well as the working it into his modeling. So maybe that's an option for Mr. Chill.
It could be. And he closes with saying, I guess the answer is you need to throw some things out. What's in your DNA? What is the purpose, or what purpose does the activity fill? Choose the one that most adequately fills the space. The ones that do not, give them a proper burial. That could be harsh, but some people don't multitask very well, and maybe they got too many hobbies like I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I gave up one. I haven't missed it very much anyway.
Yeah.
Owen Meyer, he's local. Simpsonville, Kentucky.
I know where it is.
He enjoyed the latest episode with Stephen Lee and all the commentary about the hobby. And I think what he most liked was the comparing the model railroading to military modeling and the sheer cost of getting into model railroading versus like armor modeling or something. And he said Stephen's advice to a newcomer in model railroading to go find 10 grand had him laughing out loud. Well,
it's absolutely true. I mean, you can get into modeling with a $8.95 Airfix kit and some glue and an X-Acto and a paintbrush and a couple of pots of paint. Not a big investment. But as far as model railroading, that initial investment for even the smallest of potential layouts is just tremendous.
Well, and he throws another twist in there is that if you're into plastic modeling, if your interest in genre or scale changes, that's really no big deal in terms of cost, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, minor. If you decide all of a sudden to start buying 30-second scale kits, you'd have a cost impact to your stash.
Right.
But if you're in model railroading and you want to change eras from the mid 1950s to the modern era, well, guess what you get to do? You get to sell all your equipment for pennies on the dollar and then go buy it all again for dollar on the dollar.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty big, hairy deal.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And another thing is space. I mean, if even a small
I don't know about that.
Even a small layout takes up a lot of space. Now, you and I both have dedicated modeling areas.
Yes.
But which you could, at least with mine, you could put a decent size layout in it, but nobody has to have that much room. You can model at a desk.
Well, we've had listener mail to that effect. I got no space. What do I do? And we've tried to help them out.
Yeah. I mean, you can have one of those watchmaker boxes or woodworker boxes.
Yep.
That you haul out and you put on your kitchen table. In fact, my understanding is that a lot of the folks in the UK model at their kitchen tables because many homes in the UK don't have basements, and basements are where a lot of guys end up with their man cave / model room. And so a lot of modelers in the UK model at their kitchen table. So you don't have to have a ton of space, whereas, you've got to have a dedicated space for model railroading.
Yes, you do. And he closes saying his modeling fluid of choice is an AL8.
Is what?
AL8. AL81.
AL81. Oh, God.
For the vast majority of the listeners who aren't in central Kentucky. AL81 is a local soft drink, kind of a ginger ale-ish kind of thing. I'm not from Kentucky, so and you can have mine. I'll just put it that way. My saying of choice is that the AL81 is bottled with pride by the Clark County Water Treatment Plant.
Yeah. I do not like the taste of AL81. My wife, believe it or not, however, likes it as the mixer in a gin cocktail.
Well,
AL81 and gin.
Maybe there's a redemption after all.
Well, you put alcohol in anything, you can, it improves it.
I don't know.
Almost anything.
You'll
have to put a link into the AL81 website just so people can see what we're talking about.
A lot of people like it, so they're doing okay, despite me not.
Yeah. No, they're selling it. Lots of people like it.
We got an email from Ian Fraser, Chief Moosearoo Wrangler for IPMS Hamilton.
Uh-oh.
In Ontario.
What's the news?
The news is that they were thinking it would be a good idea to dump a 1960s Airfix kit on us and only build it with a kitchen knife, paintbrush, and tube glue.
Oh, God, no.
But they had wisdom prevailed, and they settled on this year's challenge. And now it's all been wrapped up, packed up, and it's on the way. So apparently, I'm going to get a package soon, and then we'll know. Then we'll know what's up with.
They didn't tell you what it is?
They did not tell me what it is.
Oh, God.
You guys are diabolical.
That's exactly what I was thinking, man. That is cold as ice. Oh, man.
Well, they are Canadian. They know a lot about ice.
That's true. That's true. But usually Canadians are polite and nice. That's kind of a cold thing to do. Well, we'll report when Mike gets the package.
I answered this one via direct email. It's James Meares, and he didn't give me a location. And Jim has a couple of points. One, well, he gave us a nice review, so we appreciate that on Instagram.
Yay.
What was the name of the paintbrush company you all mentioned on one of the podcasts?
Would you like to take that?
That would be Zim Brushes. ZEM, Zim Brushes. And it's a great website. He's a great seller, and he gets some pretty sizable discounts if you start ordering a whole lot of stuff. And his prices are such that you can get just a ton of paintbrushes for not so much money.
Yeah.
In fact, I still need to make another order. I'm a bad patron of paintbrushes. That's not the right word. I'm a steward of paintbrushes. That'd be a better way to say it.
You abuse your brushes.
I abuse my brushes. No, I use them and I take care of them poorly.
Gotcha. Well, when you do that, let me know.
Okay, I will let you know. So, Jim, Zim Brushes, I sent you an email link. I highly recommend it, and so does Dave.
Yes.
So does anybody else we've recommended them to, for that matter.
Yep.
And he'd also like a podcast in the future about model shipbuilding.
Ooh, we're going to have to find somebody and bring somebody on, because I've built exactly, well, if you don't count submarines, I've built exactly one ship in my life, and that was 700 scale.
All right. Well, up next is Derek Post from Des Moines, Iowa. And I think this was really directed at you.
Uh-oh.
What's the most that should be paid for a decal set?
Oh, God. That question hurts.
Well, let me go a little further for you.
Okay.
Anthony. He recently bid on a 48 scale set from Two Bobs for some F-15 Tiger Meat decals. And he's planning on bidding up to $35 because he had been looking for this set for about a year.
Yeah.
Long story short, it went for $120, and the seller was just as shocked as he was.
Oh, my God.
So here's what he did. As a shout out to fellow modelers, he found 3 people on ScaleMates that had that desired set. So off went the emails about buying it from him, and all 3 responded. And the first gentleman to respond back was in Germany, and they agreed on a reasonable price. And 3 weeks later, he's logging the decal sheet into his stash.
This one's near and dear to my heart because my name's David, and I'm a decal-holic. You're all supposed to say hi, David. I love decal sheets. I have...
You have to start framing them.
Yeah, I have, no lie, over 500 sheets. And when you consider that each sheet, most sheets that you buy have multiple aircraft on a sheet, I have no need for any more decals, yet I continue to buy them with regularity. It's something about the colors, the illustrations, I am putty. And so as far as what I've never paid 120,
I hope not.
Not for one single sheet, but I did. Okay. One of my great loves and interests is the Ploesti raid on August 1st, 1943, Operation Tidal Wave. And over the years, I've collected a few decal sheets that had a tidal wave aircraft on it. Well, a few years ago, a guy named Dave Klaus, who runs pinup decals, and one of his areas of interest is the Operation Tidal Wave. He did, I think, 4 or 5 decal sheets with Ploesti Raiders on them. I mean, just nothing but Ploesti Raiders. So that if you bought all 5 decal sheets, you could do 30, at least 30 different aircraft. And these sheets were $20+ a piece. And I bought them all.
It's a lot of B-24s you got to build, Dave.
Yeah, I know, and I'm kind of trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to display, because I think I counted that with the other decal sheets I've acquired that didn't duplicate anything that he did. I think I can probably do about 38 of the Ploesti Raiders, and so now where I'm going to manage to put 38 Hasegawa B-24s, I'm not 100% sure.
I don't either, much less find the time to build that many.
Exactly.
Up next is Bob Bear from Charlotte, North Carolina. We hadn't heard from him in a while, but thanks again, Bob. He says he liked our coverage on Wonderfest, and he thinks he may try to make the trip next year. That'd be good. If you like,
highly recommended.
If you like sci-fi. And Bob, I hope you've listened to the coverage on Skill Model Podcast. They kind of had a different angle because that's kind of more their thing, the guys on the show who actually went to that show, than Dave and I. And I think between the two shows, you got a pretty good coverage of that show. And, you know, we had a great time.
Yeah, we did. Absolutely. And if you have an interest in sci-fi, fantasy, any of that stuff, Wonderfest is the show to go to.
It's pretty much, it is the show, capital THE.
Yeah.
He thinks he would like, he wants our opinion on brush painting. He doesn't think he's heard that on any of the podcasts really talk about it. I don't know if that's true or not, but it may be true. What kind of brushes are good for different kinds of paint? How do we clean our brushes, and how do we keep them looking sharp? Because his brush hairs look like Bill the Cat after just a couple of uses. Now he's going to be in Vegas, and we'll get to meet Bob and quite a few of these people who write in this week. Actually.
Yes, we're going to have to keep a list. We need a sign-in list on our table, man.
What do we want to do? Want to talk about brush painting a little bit?
Yeah. Let me say this. You know, I still brush paint details on aircraft. You know, cockpit detail, stuff like that. Small parts, maybe in undercarriage or landing lights, stuff like that. There are people on 72nd scale aircraft forum who brush paint their entire models and are so good at it that you would swear they are airbrushed. That's a skill I do not have. I just don't. The airbrush works better for me. There was a little bit of a learning curve when I first started airbrushing, as I mentioned in the previous episode. But for me, airbrushing works better. But there are guys who have mastered the art of brush painting entire models, and there's some real amazing guys out there. The other thing I would say is that as far as taking care of your brushes go, once you're done using the brush, cleaning it is important. And not only cleaning it, but there's the stuff that artists use called B&J, the Master's Brush Cleaner and Preserver. And it's basically like a specialized soap that once you've cleaned whatever paint you're using out of the brush, you rub the brush on this stuff, which is like almost a cake of soap, wetted with a little water, and it cleans the any excess material in the brush fibers out, and preserves and helps keep the point to the brush. And if you use something like this, which I have only occasionally used because I'm, like Mike, a bad steward of my brushes, it will preserve them and will help you keep using them longer. And the other thing that I would recommend as far as brush painting goes, throw brushes away when they're no longer useful, or repurpose them for other purposes. modelers as a whole tend to, I think, overuse their supplies. You'll see a guy sanding with a piece of sandpaper that all the grit has been rubbed off on, or using an X-Acto blade that was long ago dull, or using a brush that looks kind of like Bill the Cat, where the no two fibers go in the same direction. Those things are all relatively cheap, and you are best off throwing them away when they have become less effective than they were at first, and bringing in new material, be it new sandpaper, sanding sticks, X-Acto blades, or brushes, simply because a new, fresh item will save you time, and time is the one thing you can't buy more of.
That's true. Trying to think what I can add here. We could do a whole episode on this, and maybe we'll revisit this later.
Yes.
As far as what kind of brushes are good for different kinds of paint, maybe I should, but I've never cut it that close. I typically use sable brushes or artificial sable brushes.
Yeah.
For everything.
Yeah. Now, if you go to the Zem website, they will actually tell you these brushes are better for acrylics and these are better for oils. And they actually delineate it that way, but I've never really paid attention to that.
Now, do they have any kind of point or any cleaners or brush preservatives?
I don't know if Zem makes their own. Just pretty much everybody I know uses this B&J, the Masters brush cleaner and preserver, but I'm sure other companies make the same thing. I'm sure both MIG and AK will have it out within the next 2 weeks.
Now we've said something about it.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Bob, it's a good suggestion about an episode. Maybe we'll consider that. And
I think that's a great idea. Mark that down.
See what else we can get into with that. And finally, just under the wire, Mr. Kyle McCool from Baltimore, Maryland.
Wait a minute. You're telling me in one episode we have a Chill and a McCool?
It would appear that way.
Oh, man. I'm jealous. You all got great names out there.
Well, he's just come back into the hobby, and he's built a few models as a kid, but again, in spring of 2020, probably because we know, we spend a lot of time at home. And he's just working his way through some models. He's built about 10 now, and he's getting a little bit better, at least by his opinion, than the last.
Yeah.
Lots of 72nd scale airplanes, a few 48 scale, a few 35th scale helicopters, and modern Army vehicles. He's got a ship in there.
All right.
He's got a destroyer in 1/350th scale. He says he's got his favorite scale, but it's not yours.
Oh, you're breaking my heart, man.
He just wants to say he thinks the hobby is alive and well, and he's so glad to have rediscovered it. So,
listen, when you have to look for silver linings in everything, and certainly COVID was a disaster in so many ways, but if you've got to look for a silver lining is so many people seem to have rediscovered the hobby, and that's great. If it got people through all of this crap, that's fantastic, and hopefully they'll keep at it.
It's alive and kicking, man.
Yep, it is indeed.
Simple Minds, look it up.
Well, it's that time in the podcast, folks. If you've enjoyed what you're listening to, please, when you're done listening, please go rate the podcast on whatever podcast app you're listening, be it iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever. We'd appreciate you rating us, giving us 5 stars if you can see your way clear to do that, because that helps the algorithm drive our visibility up. Also, please, if you're enjoying the podcast, tell a friend. Tell somebody fellow modeler who's not listening. Show them how to access podcasts on their phone, and have them subscribe to our podcast. Word of mouth and recommendations from a fellow modeler are the single biggest way that we get new listeners. So if you do that, we'd appreciate it. And finally, Mike, I'd like to say, man, this Weller is good.
Well, you beat me to it. while you're out rating the podcasts, please tune into our fellow podcasts. We've got a little something different now. For more podcast listening, please visit our new web page consortium at modelpodcast.com. There you can find links to all the podcasts that are in the space right now. And hopefully we're all going to participate and get along and keep this thing bringing good content to everybody. You can find links to all the participating podcasts in the pod space at modelpodcast.com. But I do want to single out on the bench this episode, Dave. I got my Vegemite resupply. Breakfast is good. Breakfast is yummy. Look forward to some of that tomorrow, actually.
Well, good. That's fantastic, man.
In addition to our podcast friends, please check out our blog and YouTube folks out there who we like to follow. First, we got Model Airplane Maker for Mr. Chris Wallace. He's got a blog and a YouTube channel, a very good YouTube channel and a very good blog.
Yes, Chris, please do another YouTube.
That's right. We had a fun time with him and our Canadian friends on Zoom the other night.
Yes, we did.
We also got Jeff Groves, the Inch High guy, and his 70-second scale blog. So if you're into 70-second scale, you got to get over there. Got to check it out. Scale Canadian TV with Mr. Jim Bates, YouTube and blog.
Yep.
Now that the heat's subsided, he can actually kick out some more content.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe his fellow residents quit unplugging the internet.
We hope.
That sucks. And finally, our interview from last month, Stephen Lee with Sprue Pie with Frets. Keep it coming, Steve. We all like it.
Yes, absolutely. This guy came out of nowhere as far as he dropped in, decided to start blogging, and just tore it up from day one. So I highly recommend going to his blog daily to see what he's been doing. Finally, if you're not a member of IPMS USA or IPMS Canada or your local IPMS or your national IPMS chapter in whatever country you're listening to us in, please consider going out there, joining. There's nothing more gratifying to me when listeners email us and tell us they've joined IPMS USA or IPMS Canada or IPMS whatever. You will get a lot out of it. And these organizations do a lot behind the scenes to promote the hobby and to organize the hobby. The IPMS National Contest coming up in Las Vegas would not be possible were it not for the national organization. So I urge you, please go ahead and join.
Well, Dave, we probably ought to take a word from our sponsor right now with John Miller at Model Paint Solutions.
Absolutely.
Plastic Model Mojo is now brought to you by Model Paint Solutions, your source for Harder Steenbeck airbrushes, David Union power tools, and laboratory-grade mixing, measuring, and storage tools for use with all your model paints, be they acrylic, enamels, or lacquers. Check them out at www.modelpaintsolutions.com. Well, Dave, it's countdown to Vegas.
How long, Mike?
Dave, at the time of this recording, it is a mere 38 days from now, from the time of this recording, to the IPMS National Convention in blistering Las Vegas, Nevada, because I checked the weather today.
But it's a dry heat.
Yeah, it's a dry heat. Trust me, that doesn't make a hill of beans difference.
So is the inside of an oven, but I wouldn't live there either.
Well, we're gonna have to kick up the pre-registration game and keep encouraging people to pre-register. One thing I want to talk about is that we had a listener mail come in, and what can people expect about when they pre-register? What are they going to get, and how's that going to go forward on the show day on the other end versus maybe just paying general admission?
Well, here's what happens. If you're going to buy a general admission ticket, I don't think you can buy those early. I'm not sure, but I don't think you can buy those early. You have to buy those day of show, involves in getting in line. Most conventions in the past have sold daily tickets, 1-day tickets. They sometimes sell multi-day tickets for a higher price. Sometimes you might want to do the math, because if you are going to be there all 4 days, you'll find that even if you're not entering models, pre-registration and buying daily admission tickets which just allow you access to the model room and the vendor room, but don't allow you to enter a model. The price isn't that different. I highly recommend that even if you're not going to enter a model, you still pre-register and pay the pre-registration price, because among other things, it gets you a decal sheet, a pin, some other swag. The other advantage of pre-registering is that when you walk into the convention, you don't have to stand in line to buy your daily admission ticket. If you have pre-registered for the contest, you walk into an area or a room, every convention's a little different, where they have all of these bags organized alphabetically. And it's kind of like voting or the DMV. You get in a line with the first letter, your last name. You get there, the person on the other side asks you your name. He goes and looks at the bags, grabs the one with your name on it, hands it to you. You're done. And that is so much quicker than standing in line for a general admission ticket or standing in line for a registration day of show. It allows you to enter a model or more than one model if you want to enter models. But even if you don't, you get all the swag. There's a decal sheet. There's a pin. There's the schedule. There's usually some swag from manufacturers. I highly recommend, even if you're not going to enter a model, going ahead and pre-registering, because the cost is not usually that much different if you're going to attend all 4 days of the contest. Now, if you're only coming in and out for a day and you're not going to enter a model, you stand in line and you get your general admission ticket because it's cheaper, and I understand that. But if you're going to be there multiple days of the contest, go ahead, pre-register. It will be a much more happy experience. And again, let me emphasize, the single most important thing, if you go to an IPMS national convention, wear comfortable shoes, because you are going to do a lot of walking.
And bring small bills.
Yeah, well, bring small bills too, yeah. But wear comfortable shoes, because, man, you're going to do a lot of walking and standing, sometimes on hard concrete, sometimes on carpet, but still, I don't think I've been to 20 some odd conventions now. I don't think I've ever left a convention where my legs didn't hurt.
Well, that's the mark of a successful show.
That is indeed. Listen, the worst IPMS convention that I've ever been to was still the best time I had that year. I'm telling you.
Well, I think what I would add would be to I actually think they are selling the general admissions online.
Online, are they? Okay.
Yeah. So if anything we've said, if you've got one of those and what we said has convinced you, maybe if you're going to be there for the entire duration or most of the duration, to maybe consider registering, I would start reaching out now, see if they'll convert that for you with the, you'll have an uplift a little bit, but surely they would credit you, but I don't know if they will or not, but
I would
start now.
Yeah. Yeah. This is where it gets hairy. Okay. An IPMS National Convention is a 2+ year process for the guys putting the convention on. It's really 3 years, because there's a year where you plan and bid, and then there's 2 years before the contest. And there's a lot of dead time in the first year and a half, where you've made your arrangements and everything's locked in and you're just waiting to go. The last 30 days before a national convention is when things really start hopping for the guys who are putting it on. So I don't envy Bob and Joe and those guys. This is the time where it really gets busy for them. And remember, these guys are all volunteers. Nobody's getting paid for doing this. This is a labor of love. And for the guys who put on a national convention, for the host chapters, they are really doing us all a very big favor. And we need to be appreciative and understanding if there are any little hiccups along the way. These are all volunteers doing their best.
And finally, I'm going to drop a teaser here. We have an episode in the works that's going to hopefully drop the week just prior to the Nationals. And if all goes according to plan, we will hear again from Bob Lomasaro, the convention chairman.
That is, if he's sane.
If he's sane. We will also hear a little bit from Dr. Strangebrush about his upcoming seminar at the IPMS Nationals, and we'll also launch a little something special with him during this episode. And we're going to be talking to the guys from the Plastic Posse podcast, because they're all going to be coming down and out from their various locations to the IPMS Nationals, and some of those guys are first timers. In fact, most of them are.
Oh, so God.
Could be a good conversation.
There is nothing like your first national convention. My first was in 1985 in Indy, and I still remember everything about it, just because it is so different an experience from anything you've experienced before. Your first one is magical. So I'm looking forward to all of that. Hopefully, Bob will be sane at that point. I have my doubts. I know the stress that these guys are under.
He's excited, though.
I can't wait. Well, yeah, and he should be, because I think that because of the pandemic,
oh yeah,
he may end up setting records that nobody expected a West Coast national to set.
Well, let's hope so.
Yes, absolutely. And if I haven't mentioned it before, this Weller is really darn good.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this. Well, that's it for Countdown to Vegas.
All right, Mike, have you been building? Well, I know the answer to that because I follow our Facebook page and you text me occasionally. It looks like you've been modeling a little bit.
I've been modeling quite a bit. Now,
do tell.
Not this past weekend, unfortunately, but I really want to get this Zis 2 done. I really want to get it done and start something else. I'm trying not to rush it. You know where,
I hear you.
You know where that ends up.
Oh, yeah.
So I've finished up all the retaining walls for the revetment for the base and the palette. All the wood painting is done. I kind of backed off my original idea. That is a place I compromised, because that was just not going to close like I wanted it to in a timely manner. We'll revisit that later. And I've started adding the texture to the styrofoam base that I've had cut for quite a long time, actually.
And what were you using as your texturing material?
Well, it's a Vallejo earth texture. It's an acrylic product that's got like pumice in it to make it bumpy and rough and textured. Well, the first thing I did was I've got some Grumbacher, a big bottle of acrylic paint, and I painted the whole thing like in raw umber just to cover up the foam and cover up all the white. And then I came back with this earth texture and daubed it on and got all the ground level surfaces covered again. But it's all going to get painted again. I really don't like the color of this stuff. I like the texture and the ease of use. I just don't like the color.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a good color right out of the bottle. It's a good base, but it's not a finished color by any means.
Yeah. Well, and you with ground is not just one color. So no matter what, you're going to have to paint any ground material that you apply just to get variations in color.
Well, that may be it. I mean, this stuff dries a very uniform color. So it doesn't look natural.
Right.
The texture looks natural. I got it right here in front of me now. Yeah, I think this is going to look good.
Have you been working on anything else?
Unfortunately not. I've just been working on this. I still got to flat finish all the wooden planks and things, but they are all painted, and I've got all the ammo boxes together. I've just got to paint them now. I got to paint them
and decal them.
A couple of them, yes. Actually, all of them have a decal on them, because the closed ones have a decal on the lid on the outside, and the open ones have a decal on the lid on the inside. So it didn't escape that, but hopefully in a week or so I'll be starting to put this base together.
Good.
Get everything going. I'm real pleased with the wood parts. I think they turned out pretty good.
I was going to mention there are out there on the YouTubes, as the kids say, there are a bunch of great tutorials on doing wood and wood grain and weathered wood, AK and MIG ammo, and a whole bunch of other folks. I think Last Cavalry might even have one to simulate different types of wood and distressed wood. That's one area where I think YouTube can really help somebody if they're trying to simulate some sort of wood product.
Well, for me, that's all I've gotten done. I've made a lot of progress. It's just only on one project. So hopefully you can redeem this segment and let us know what you've been doing.
Well, I have made progress on 2 out of 3 projects.
It's better than me.
The M30 is still where it is. I got the AK white paint. I'm ready to start shipping, but I haven't brought myself to do it yet. There's no reason other than I'm a complete coward. But I'll get to it. I'll suck it up and say, all right, I'm going to do it. The mosquito that in theory I have to have built in 37 days or less is coming along. I've gotten the bottom color applied and distressed and varied. I've gotten the first top coat applied and distressed and varied, and now I'm going to put a thin coat of the original base color over it. So the mosquito's moving along, and there is at least some possibility that it will be done for the Nationals. In addition, I've been working on the TU-128. I have a set. I bought an aftermarket set of wheels by Armory for the TU-128. I've painted them, or at least started painting them. And I'll tell you, I'm not overly impressed with these items. They're better than the kit parts, but they're not much better than the kit parts. And I think if I were doing it again, I would just go ahead and use the kit parts. So that's a little disappointing. But the TU-128 is moving forward. And hopefully, when I see all of you all out at the Nationals, I will have the completed mosquito out there, along with the ones from the group mosquito build of the other modelers participating in that. And hopefully we'll have them all out there.
We got 38 days.
I am not good modeling under pressure, man. Especially with everything else going on, man. Work is just killing me.
Doesn't he start taking bets now?
Yeah. Let's put it this way. If I were you, I'd bet against. I've got to be honest. I'm going to try, and Lord knows I want to, but given my track record and how slowly I model, you know that you should probably bet against me.
Well, it's already 1 foot in the grave because it's a group build.
Exactly.
Anything else?
That's it. That's where my bench stands right now.
All right. Well, if you don't have anything else, stock faves and yawns for a little bit.
All right.
There's been a fair number of things announced recently. I'm sure something's got you excited. What might
absolutely.
What might it be?
Well, the first one is Dora Wings has announced a 72nd scale P-43 Lancer. And if you don't know what the P-43 Lancer is, I do not blame you at all. The Republic P-43 Lancer was the aircraft between the Seversky P-35 that was a pre-World War II radial engine fighter. There were some of them in the Philippines at the beginning of World War II. And then the P-47, which ended up being one of the 2 U.S. fighter aircraft that were predominant in the war. The P-43 was kind of the interim step before the P-47. There weren't a ton of them built. A lot of them went to China and the Chinese use them. We've had some short run kits of them and definitely had resin and injection, but Dora Wings is doing a full on injection 72nd scale P43 Lancer. Since the Republic of China is one of my areas of interest, I look forward to this because it will allow us to build using a modern kit, a P43, which, you've got to build and put next to your P47 on your shelf. How about you?
Well, mine goes out of genre for my biggest fave of the last two weeks.
Uh-oh.
You see the Zeppelins that TACOM has announced?
Yes, I have. And in fact, our friend Stephen Lee also commented on these.
Yeah, I'm going to be getting me one of those. I don't know. I can't believe I'm saying that, but that's cool.
I agree. And the thing is, as I pointed out to you when we were talking, the thing is they're 1/350th scale, and you've got to build a 1/350th scale World War I German dreadnought because the High Seas Fleet used Zeppelins as scouting aircraft for the fleet when they went out on actions such as the Battle of Jutland. So the Zeppelin will lead you directly into ship 1/350th scale ship modeling, and that'll make David Goldfinch happy.
Well, there's two of these, and they're different models, and one's a little longer. I'll probably get the bigger one. I mean, why not?
Of course, bigger is better.
Bigger is better.
Never mind.
At 1/350th, they're not terrible.
No, they're going to be decent size. They'll be about the size of a 350th scale battleship.
So what else you got?
Well, this one's kind of personal to me. Pavla is reissuing their Angeles FA 330. And now we're going to ask Mike if he knows what a Angeles FA 330 is.
No, I don't.
There's no reason you should know. The Angeles FA 330 looks like a cross between a glider and a helicopter. And what it is actually a towed kite with a 3-bladed helicopter type propeller overhead. And what this thing was, it was disassembled, stored in a U-boat. Then the U-boat, when it's out in the Atlantic, would surface, assemble the Angeles, and tow it as a kite behind the U-boat or above the U-boat. And somebody would be sitting in it, and basically they were using it as an ability to look over the horizon for Allied shipping. And I have had for the longest time the idea of doing a diorama of a 72nd scale U-boat towing one of these things, and it's connected by a cord to the submarine, and have it being towed and suspended over the U-boat. And yeah, I know the chances of me actually accomplishing that are zero, but the Angeles by Pavla has been unavailable for years, and I've looked for them and never found one, and apparently they are reissuing it.
Isn't there one of these in the Smithsonian?
I believe there is one at Udvar-Hazy.
Yes.
At the Air and Space Museum, the Udvar-Hazy out at Dulles Airport.
Focke-Achilles.
Yes. Focke-Achilles. Damn, who can pronounce that shit?
There's no N in it.
Yes. You are correct. I'm sorry. My German pronunciation is less than perfect. So what's next for you?
Well, I don't know if it's a fave or a yawn. It's just an observation. Just is Asian market shell game. Well, I don't know if you saw the YouTube blow up between the TACOM and the Ryefield and
You mean Facebook?
border, yeah, Facebook. Sorry, that was kind of comical.
Oh, that was rarely do you see industry squabbles break out into public like that.
Well, I won't say much more about that, but that was entertainment gold, actually.
Yes, it certainly was. Rarely do corporations drop F-bombs on Facebook.
And disparagement.
Yes.
Well, back to point. What I mean by shell game is, there's a company that came to light here in the last year called Suyata, and they came out with these like Tamiya homage kind of, I don't know what they were. They were like mannequin-esque kind of figures in old Tamiya style boxes, and it actually came out with the Kettenkrad kind of go with them, and it was really kind of weird. But then they announced a Panther A with the overhead crane and full interior kit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they announced, if you were paying attention, a Tiger 1. Now that Tiger 1 is no longer a Suyata release; it's a U-Star release. I'm like, what the hell?
Who is U-Star?
Well, who was Suyata 9 months ago? I don't get it, but it's 48 scale armor. I have my opinions about that. There's a market for it.
Oh yes, Tamiya has shown clearly that there was.
It's not as big as 35th scale, but there's a market for it. And it's more of a curiosity is what's going on with these two companies. That the one made an announcement, now somebody else is coming out with it.
Yeah.
And how's that play into the whole, the whole squabble between the other three in the 35th scale market? Somebody's doing X is doing tooling for Y, or Z is going to sell Y's kit under this label. And boy, that's an interesting place.
Yes. China. Well, you've been to China a few times, and so have I. It is very, very different and unusual. And especially when many of these companies have state interests in them.
Yes.
So sometimes they cooperate, sometimes they're forced to cooperate, sometimes they compete, sometimes a company is in favor because of its political connections. It's I don't want to say so different, because let's face it, here in the United States, there's at least some of that goes on. But the extent to which it goes on in China is just wild.
Anything else?
One last one, and it's a fave, not a yawn. ResKit, who is a manufacturer of resin accessories, has announced a fair number of Soviet/Russian air-to-air and air-to-ground ordnance, including freefall bombs, missiles, and rocket launcher pods. And this stuff is the ResKit. If you've never seen it, it's really good stuff. And the aftermarket, or the Russian and Soviet air-to-air and particularly air-to-ground ordnance is an area that definitely needs the assistance of someone like ResKit, because a lot of stuff, the ordnance that comes in the actual kits themselves, are not particularly good. So I am happy to see ResKit going further and further into the Soviet aftermarket ordnance industry. You got a final one?
Well, no, I don't have a final one. I'll just close by saying, I guess apparently that sheep are infinitely more interesting than pigeons.
I was going to mention sheep. I really was.
That was actually, I don't know. I think that was a little more useful.
I agree. Sheep is better than pigeons. There's no question. And I will tell you, I really like a lot of what Mini Art is doing, where Mini Art, in addition to their kits, which I understand are fairly nice kits, all of this accessory stuff they're doing it, from workshop tools to trash cans to machine tools, is a boon to the dioramicist. If you like dioramas, Mini Art reminds me of what VLS was in the 80s and 90s.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. I would say that what I was thinking was that it's what Mini Art is doing in injection molded plastic is the answer to all those emails that were written into all the modeling magazines in the 80s about why is there no tank engines and park gates and window sets and gutters and ammo boxes and 35th scale in plastic.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
We finally arrived.
And here is the only downside I see. And I know you remember this era when VLS hit in the late 80s, early 90s. I love dioramas. I don't do dioramas. I love dioramas. A good diorama tells a story. A good diorama has a lot of subtlety to it that you can stare at for 5 minutes and see new things every time. And before VLS, really good dioramas, all of the accessories were scratch built and you never saw the same thing twice. And then when VLS came along, you ended up with dioramas that looked like somebody vomited the VLS catalog onto a base, where you saw the same Buddhist statue, the same this or that, the same building, the same whatever in every diorama. And it kind of took the originality away. The one thing I worry about with all of this stuff Mini Art is doing is that same thing happening, that every diorama you see will have Mini Art trash cans, Mini Art sheep, and Mini Art pigeons on the diorama, and it loses some originality when at least some of the diorama isn't scratch built. But then again, on the other hand, I see the need for all of these things, and I'm happy they're available for people, because there are a lot of modelers who will build Mini Art trash cans that would never scratch build trash cans of their own.
I think also that their line is getting so diverse that you end up in a situation where there's an infinite way to put this stuff together.
Yes, absolutely. I do think that is a possibility, that while you may end up seeing them, the mix and match possibilities are really going to provide you with a lot of really interesting dioramas, even if you see the same sheep in diorama after diorama.
And in that regard, you may not recognize it as Mini Art right off the bat, right?
Yes, agreed.
As opposed to the VLS stuff, which was of limited volume, limited product scope. There was just not that much of it.
I can't tell you how many times I saw that Buddhist statue in Vietnam dioramas in the 80s and 90s. You know the one?
I know the one. All right. Well, that's Faves and Yawns. Now it's time for our special segment, and we're going to have a little talk with the Panzermeister.
Yes.
After, a long time of trying to coordinate with his university schedule and all that, it all finally worked itself out. And Mr. Evan McCallum, a.k.a. Panzermeister 36, got to have a conversation with us, and we really appreciated it. So let's have a listen to that. Well, listeners, we have a guest tonight from Ottawa, Canada. It's Mr. Evan McCallum. Evan, how you doing tonight?
Very well. How about yourself?
I'm great. Now, most of our listeners will know you possibly by your YouTube handle, Panzermeister 36. We'll talk a little bit about your videos and that stuff as well. But the reason I want to have you on tonight, or I've been trying to get you on for a while. We just haven't been able to get it together because of your schedule and our schedule. We have a lot of similarities in our modeling journey, and I just thought that might be an interesting discussion. Can you give us a little bit of you're not that old by comparison to us, Dave and I. We're kind of crotchety old guys, but
Hey,
what about you? What about you, Evan? How old are you?
I am 23 years old. I just graduated from my aerospace engineering degree at Carleton University here. I know it's aerospace engineering. We're going to talk about that later, I'm sure, how I did tanks instead of airplanes. So I just graduated from university, just got my apartment here. Recently, I've been setting up my workbench because that's the most important thing when you get a new space, set up the workbench.
That's right.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So been a little bit busy, no videos lately, but hope to get back into that soon. Yeah.
When did you actually start modeling?
I started modeling probably when I was, honestly, I first got into modeling through model railroading when I was probably like 7, 8 years old with, a basic HO scale, like loop around the Christmas tree kind of thing. I always loved like Thomas the Tank Engine when I was a little kid. So that was like the next step. Set up a little loop in the basement kind of thing on a table. And of course, with that, you end up building like structures and stuff like that, basic kits. You play around with the red testers, tube glue, and all that fun stuff. You're just popping parts off the sprues and everything. And then I also, that probably went on for until I was maybe like 12, 13, 14 years old or so. And then I also was developing an interest in history. I liked watching history documentaries, and there was like a show at the time that I liked to watch, which was Greatest Tank Battles on the History Channel, which I found was always very entertaining. And then I just kind of wanted to build a model kit. And I was very fascinated by the aesthetics of the Stormgeschütz, the Stug 3. So I just went to the local hobby shop and I picked up a Dragon Smart Kit Stug 3 as my first. It's my first kit. And, those things have probably like 400 parts or so. And even though that kit was quite complicated, I had a fun time building and painting it, and just kind of went from there. I kind of moved more and more into the model tank aspect of things over the years. I started my YouTube channel a couple years after I got into model tanks, so I was still pretty new at the time. And then I've lately been kind of getting more and more back into the model railroading aspect of that because I do like the scenery aspects of it and the weathering aspects of it. But I am still definitely mostly a tank guy.
Well, that's interesting for me because I got into not quite the same, but I was into model railroading early on. I was also doing a lot of aircraft, 48 scale monogram kits and the like. And I was doing model railroading, very simplistic though.
Yeah.
Loops on plywood, not a whole lot of really good scenery, if much at all. Was it the documentaries that flipped you over, or did you see any of the modeling publications? What for me, the trigger was on a family vacation. I picked up a copy of the old American publication, Military Modeler. And I kind of, hey, that's kind of cool. That's kind of a new twist on modeling. And I think those models and dioramas look great. And I think I'd like to do that. And I kind of went from there. Any similarities there?
I'm not 100% sure, but I know that I was reading a lot of Model Railroader magazine at the time when I was kind of transitioning over, and I was very quick to pick up Fine Scale Modeler when I was first getting into it. But I believe that was after I built like my first kit or so. I'm pretty sure it was like the books and the History Channel, back when the History Channel was actually history stuff, of course, and not ancient aliens and
all the other fun stuff. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
You mentioned the Sturmgeschütz, which is also a favorite of mine. I've got a few I've built. I wouldn't say several, but I've built a few. I got a bunch in the stash, but for me, it was an aesthetic thing as well. And can you tell us more about that? What makes that one so interesting to you, and why it's such a reoccurring theme on your YouTube channel?
I first got into it purely because I thought it was a very interesting looking vehicle. And I mean, I wasn't that deep into the knowledge then, so I was quite fascinated by the fact that it was a very common tank, but it didn't have the common tank look to it because, it's actually a tank destroyer / assault gun style where it doesn't have an actual turret. And I liked the look of the long gun late Stug 3 with the side skirts. It looked cool on whichever episode of Greatest Tank Battles I first saw it on. I was like, that's a cool tank. And then I I got basically the kit of that variant, like a 1943 Stug 3 with the side skirts and the cast mantlet and everything. That was the first armor kit that I built. But now that still stuck with me. But now that I've read more and more into it, I even find it to be more fascinating because, of course, it's the most produced German armored vehicle, armored fighting vehicle, basically, of the war, apart from half-tracks and so on, I think. But
Sure.
it beats out all the other Panzers and everything. And because of that, it's in like every theater. They made them from 1937 to 1945. There's every single paint scheme, every single theater. You know, you can do it. You can do it anywhere. I just find that there's always an interesting reference photo available of it because it's just so common and it was everywhere. So there's always interesting stuff for me to do about it. And as I get even deeper and deeper, now I'm in like the factory features and all this stuff for the different factories at different things they did at different times and all the different Zimmert patterns. It's quite complicated, but I just find it to be interesting to read about that stuff and think about how I could incorporate that on different models.
So I got to ask, do you have the Mueller Zimmerman 2-volume set on Sturmgeschütz?
Yes, I have both of those.
Indispensable, I imagine.
Absolutely. They're I probably look at them at least once a week.
I imagine you do. And you also have some interest in T-34s, which is another favorite of mine. Typically, my interests are almost entirely Eastern Front related. I just think the here we are right near the 80th anniversary of Barbarossa.
Yeah.
This week and at the time of this recording. And it's just always been fascinating for me because I guess when I was grade school and even college in history, that theater of the war didn't ever get a whole lot of attention, at least not in the United States. I don't know how it was in Canada. You didn't get a whole lot of depth into that subject. And as I learned the scope of it on my own later, it just, all that just took on great interest for me. That's kind of what drove my interest in that. What steers you toward the T-34?
Honestly, same kind of thing to start with. I found it to be a very aesthetically pleasing vehicle to look at. You know, it just looks really cool. And when I look at one, I think of how I can paint and weather it in an interesting way. I find I most like the look of the early T-34s with the early turret, not the hexagonal one and not the 85 millimeter, but like the standard big hatch early one.
Yes.
With either the really short earlier gun like the L11 or the later one. I think it has the same kind of look as the Stug 3. It's nice and kind of low and wide, almost like streamlined. It's just a really cool vehicle. And I guess there aren't as many interesting camouflage options as there are on many other topics because it's just a T-34. So usually it's kind of just green. But I do like it. One of the projects I'm working on now is actually a 57 millimeter T-34, one of the few that were used, which is, of course, the same kind of turret. That's been a long-term project, but it's coming along well, and I'm pleased with it.
It is for Mike too.
Are you working on one as well?
No, not that variant. I've got the one I've always, well, there's two. The STZ version of the 41, 42 is kind of a favorite of mine, particularly the later ones before the factory capitulated. You know, just the one that has just about every STZ feature on it you could expect to find on it. I really like those. I also like the 85s that were the first ones, the first D5T armed ones that were built. Actually, is the Model 43 T-34 85, which still I've got a couple of resin turrets, but still waiting for. I'd like to see that one kitted in plastic completely. The latest mini art was a little bit later turret with the D5T gun. It's a little bit different shape. When it first came out, I thought they were the same, but I've had to learn a few things since then. But hopefully, mini art will cover these. Now I've picked up the Tiger Models old resin kit of the STZ, so we'll see if that ever gets built. But at least I have one now. To back up a little bit, in my history, I returned to model railroading, and I always considered myself more of a railroad modeler because I was in HO scale and I was building railroad subjects, but I was never really that gung-ho about having a layout. There was a particular railroad from the southern United States that I followed, the Clinchfield Railroad. And I like, from the part of the country I grew up in East Tennessee and North Carolina area, and just got into, the very nuanced specifics of the equipment of that railroad and was building those things. But since then I've kind of got out of it again, partly precipitated by the fact that we moved to a different house and it just, the space wasn't as conducive. And I thought I had too many hobbies. You just said that you're kind of revisiting it again now?
Yes. So in my parents' house where I lived before, we have a model road in the basement that's kind of been a long time coming, off and on working on that. It's about 9 by 13 feet maybe, so a fairly decent sized loop. Working on that with my father, of course, helping me solder everything when I was younger. And I have a younger brother as well who's also interested in model railroading. So he's kind of taken over that loop. But now that I've moved out, I have got behind me in my workspace here. This is something that I built. Well, I built this with my dad earlier. It's a modular style, so it can actually fit in the back of my car. But it's set up here. It's about 10 feet long, basically just a short switching layout. That's still very, very bare bones at the moment, but I do enjoy, for model routing, two aspects the most. I enjoy like slow speed switching operations with usually like a modern era kind of theme to them. And the second thing I enjoy is weathering stuff, because that kind of also goes into the model tanks and everything like that. I just love sitting down and spending a whole evening weathering something. I don't so much enjoy painting because I find I struggle with the airbrush a little bit. So at least with a model road subject, it's already painted. So I just start weathering. I don't have to worry about the decals or any of that stuff unless I'm going to change anything. But it's a great subject for just like a quick thing where I can just sit down and start weathering. And
it's good practice, because that's exactly right. I agree with that a lot. That it's from the weathering aspect. There's a lot of crossover there. Because it's big metal equipment sitting outdoors all the time and not getting maintained to the highest degree necessarily. Sometimes yes, but often not. But well, with model routing stuff, you can really go overboard with the weathering, and it's still completely realistic and everything. Though some of those things look like disasters on rails, but they're just so cool. Do you find yourself testing out new products and techniques there first?
I think that I've experimented somewhat on model railroading with some new techniques, but I kind of use the same stuff as I do in armor, which I find is whenever reading a model railroader magazine or something like that, I know it's usually it's older guys writing these articles, and they're doing kind of more of the old school techniques where it's like, dry brushing, acrylic paints, pan pastels, and so on. There is some mention, of course, of like the newer stuff, and mainly it's people using like AK Interactive enamel, rust washes, and streaking grimes. But I enjoy kind of doing the same kind of stuff I do on model tanks, where I do like oil work and not so much pigments, but a lot of oil work and like chipping with brush acrylics and so on. It's similar techniques. Perhaps I do try out some more heavy weathering techniques on model routing stuff. Like I've been using hairspray chipping there recently for really beat up finishes. You can go a lot harder than you can on a tank. At least within reason, of course. You can do whatever you want if you want a really heavily weathered tank.
You could probably also go to a model railroad club meeting and really blow some minds.
Yeah,
showing them those techniques, because that was my experience as well. I had a clinic I did. I used to be involved with the National Model Railroad Association chapter here in Lexington, and I did it was a paint decal and weathering presentation, a slideshow, PowerPoint, and it was a big paradigm shift for a lot of those guys. There's a lot of guys at the time. I was probably 30, but most of the membership was still 15 to 20 years older than me at the time, because that is to a large extent an older hobby, I think, to a large degree. And it's just a lot of it was really novel, where I'd been doing on tanks forever. I just kind of brought it from the military modeling side and brought it into my model railroading.
Yeah, like you said, it's entirely applicable because it's the same kind of subject. It's basically a flat hunk of metal that just gets chipped and worn and sun blasted or sun faded and sandblasted and just completely beat up. So yeah, the crossover of techniques seems completely natural.
Evan?
Yes.
I got a question for you. You're 16 years old. You're modeling tanks and some model railroading stuff. You're in high school. What possesses you to start a YouTube channel?
Complete boredom, I think.
Well, boredom is the mother of invention.
Yeah. At that time, I was also getting into watching the YouTube modeling channels. I hadn't really done much of that before, but around that time, I was watching a lot of YouTube videos, which were like guys at the time. It was QDC, Colodito 1, and Hamilcar Barkus were the three guys I watched the most. and QDC and Hamilcar Bikers are still making YouTube videos to this day. But I remember watching their videos and enjoying like the community aspect where they're sharing their techniques, but they're also making like video responses to other people. Everyone's talking in the comments section. It's all very nice and polite. Everyone's sharing techniques. It's all just a really great community. And I thought, because I enjoyed weathering, and I was like, maybe I can kind of do my own thing here where I join the community and learn from guys and then give back with my weathering techniques that I enjoy just having fun with. So that's kind of how I got started. I just kind of wanted to make YouTube videos sharing my passion of the hobby, especially my passion of weathering.
Had you ever done video editing? Did you have any background in any of that, or did you just cold, hey, this looks neat, let's try it?
Yeah, no, I just went in there with my family's video camera and I think just like the stock Windows Movie Maker on the computer. I really didn't know what I was doing, and the first YouTube videos show that I had never done any editing before on any video stuff like that, apart from like PowerPoint presentations. But well, Windows Movie Maker is pretty basic, so that's kind of applicable. But yeah, I just went in there and it kind of figured out as I went along, and I still kind of struggle with the editing aspects of it because it's quite complicated, and I'm still trying to keep it fairly basic so I can speed that process up and just get the videos done. Yeah, no, I just went in there blind, basically.
Well, to back up from Dave's question, Dave, you can get back in with another one after this, obviously. But have you ever stopped, other than by necessity for your education or whatever? Is this always been since you started, particularly with your armor modeling? Has this been a continuous effort by yourself or of yourself?
Yeah, no, I haven't really had any reason to stop. I actually do enjoy the aspect of filming and sharing it. It's also kind of a good way to document it for myself, to remember how I did certain techniques and what worked and what didn't. Like you said, I had to stop a couple times just to focus on my education, which, isn't fun, but that's the priority, of course. And usually while I do stop the videos, I still work on it in the background a little bit. As we discussed before, like I can just spend a weekend if I have a little bit of free time and I can completely weather a model railroad boxcar or something like that, which I wouldn't be able to do if it was a model tank, because that takes much more time. But quick projects, working on a little bit of stuff here and there is always good to relax, and this hobby is always good for that.
Well, I asked because the reoccurring theme with a lot of these modelers that get interviewed on the various podcasts is they were in it as a kid and they got to be 16. It was girls and cars and beer, and they stop for a while and they come back into it. And I've always felt that was a bit foreign to me because I never did that. I never quit. I got more serious about it. Now, when I was in school and I didn't have the space, when I was in the dormitories in college, I had a little bit of my equipment there, and I'd work on a few things every now and then when I had time, but I didn't have a lot of time in engineering school, as you well know.
Yeah.
But when I come home for holidays, as the bench was there, I'd bring the other tools back, and I'd keep on going. I really never quit. In school, have you ever done this? Have you ever gone to, pre-pandemic, of course, have you ever gone to a model show anywhere that required travel and actually sat in a hotel room in the evening and done homework?
Yes. A couple of years ago, I went to the Heritage Con, probably 2018. I honestly can't remember. Maybe 19, but I think 18. Heritage Con, which is just out of Toronto there. I met some cool guys like John Bonani there, JB Closet Modeler.
Yep.
And yeah, so I was in the hotel room, and I first thing I did was sat down with my laptop and started typing up some more of my chemistry report or whatever I was working on, whatever I was supposed to be doing that weekend.
Yeah. And that was a real drag, wasn't it?
Yeah. But then it's nice to just completely forget about that the next morning and, spend a couple $100 on kits at a modeling show that you don't really need to build.
A quick aside on Heritage Con. Hopefully, if they're back on the regular rotation next year, maybe we'll get to see you face to face. Yeah,
now that I'm out of university and I have more freedom, I do look forward to going to more and more modeling shows. I was planning to go to the World Expo. What was that, 2020? Yeah. Now it's 2022. The one in Eindhoven. I was planning on flying there and meeting some of the European buddies of mine and so on.
Oh, that's cool.
And before you ask, no, I'm not going to Vegas this year. It sounds really fun, though.
It is.
Maybe honestly, if the world's looking a lot better, maybe next year. Is it Texas next year? The Nats?
Omaha next year, Texas the year after. And let me tell you, Omaha, I've been to a lot of nationals, like 25 of them. And I've been to the last two in Omaha, and they are some of the best nationals. The space is fantastic. The location, you wouldn't think Omaha, but for a model contest, lots of people can get there very cheaply. There's usually a huge Canadian contingent. In fact, my favorite story is that the hotel, that's one of the two convention hotels in Omaha, has, as part of the benefit for staying there, a free beer and wine happy hour from like 5 to 7:30. And the look of absolute horror on the hotel employees' faces as the Canadian contingent frankly nearly drank them dry. They had never seen anything like that. It was amazing. And the Canadians thought they were in heaven.
Yeah, I've been to a couple of good shows. Like I was at the World Expo 2017 in Chicago. Been to Heritage Con, of course. I've been to the local shows here, and I do love the aspect of the show, and I wish we had more that were close to where I live here, because I just love going there, looking at all the models, getting some good deals, but also just meeting people and chatting with people. And I guess sometimes people recognize me, and it's pretty fun. But I actually find I have more fun recognizing other people and being like, "Hey, you're that guy from Facebook."
Right. Now, okay, you've got 7 years of videos on your YouTube channel.
Yes.
Have you gone back and looked at the evolution of your modeling style over those 7 years? Because it's a fascinating, I mean, I've looked at a number of them from back to the beginning all the way to now, and it's fascinating the evolution that your techniques have gone through. Of course, now part of that is there's so many more modeling and weathering products.
Yes.
But in addition to that, you're just doing a lot of things completely differently than you used to.
Well, I started off doing the basic techniques, which is basically just you dry brush it, maybe do a little bit of chipping. Honestly, it was probably at least a year before I even started doing things like a pin wash. It was basic pigments before that, but because at the time, when you're first getting used to it, you're more focused on just being able to put the kit together in a good way, working with some basic photo etch, getting that down, having a smooth paint finish. Maybe, you're not really focused on any of the fine techniques, like maybe making cast textures or like color modulation or all that crazy stuff. But after a point, I don't know, I sometimes go back and look at my early videos and listen to my squeaky little voice. It's fun to look back on that and see like the points where I had major changes in my style and my kind of ideas on it. But I think, like you said, I kind of came into the hobby at a point where, well, now certainly, but it's like in the past decade, we've had a lot of innovation in like weathering products, convenience products, MIG Ammo, AK Interactive, before that, MIG Productions, like pre-made washes and all this good stuff that's now become so much more prevalent. It's really been helpful, especially for somebody like me who at the time was like, I don't know how to do any of this stuff, but I can just go to the store and I can buy a wash or a rust streak and grime and kind of just watch the AK Interactive associated YouTube video explaining how to use it. And then that really helps you get a good grip on some basic techniques. And then, of course, once I got a grasp on them, then I would make my own video saying how I use the product and any other ways you can use it. Maybe you can use it also as a wash and other stuff like that. But yeah, I think that the birth of, or at least the explosion in convenience products in the past years kind of happened around the same time that I was getting interested in that kind of stuff, and it went hand in hand with my progression in weathering.
Well, I'll go there because you brought the squeaky little voice. That was you, so it's fair game now. It's kind of been like watching one of those child actors grow up on a sitcom, But your work stands alone, man. It's you do a great job, and it's been fun. I've learned a lot from you. This old guy here has learned a lot from you.
Thank you.
Got me to try some new things. Oh, I remember one more thing I got to get in. One of your neighbors up there, Ian McCauley, says he taught you everything you know. Is that true?
Um, you know what? That's not entirely false because he's part of the local modeling group we have here, which meets in the local hobby shop. We have a couple of local hobby shops here in Ottawa. We're very fortunate to still have brick and mortar shops that are really nice here. So my favorite one is the Hobby Center here, which has recently expanded in the past couple of years, and they've got like all the kits, all the airplanes. They've even got model railroading, lots of tanks. They got lots of weathering products, especially the past few years. And they host in the evenings of certain days, before COVID, of course. We had you could just show up and hang out with all the crotchety old guys. I mean, I was about, that's what it was, because when I was first going there, I was about 15, 16 years old, right about when I started the channel. I think a little bit before then, I was going to to these meetings, and I learned a lot of stuff there because the first couple times I went there, I was still using that. I've got it here next to me as like a reminder. The plastic cement for models, testers, red tube glue stuff. Oh, yeah. That horrible stuff from 1800 or whatever.
I was still using it's older than me.
Yeah, I was still using that, and one of the first things that those guys showed me was Tamiya extra thin cement, which was like crazy to me. Like, wow, look, it spreads itself out. You don't have to wipe it around with a toothpick.
Where have you been all my life?
I know some of them gave me some free kits to practice with and start off with, like armor models and stuff. And they definitely did help me. Like they showed me how to use the stretch sprue for like weld seams and so on. It taught me about history and all this stuff. Like I know a lot of talk about Sherman's went on there and so on. And while they definitely didn't teach me everything they know, I know they're having fun, but they definitely were a big step in my growth as a modeler, that they saw this young kid, 15 years old, showing up to the meetings, and they treated me like one of their own, right? Like, yeah. I was a part of the old guys group or whatever.
Well, that's all very, very familiar, because I was hanging out the hobby shop at your age a lot, especially after I got my driver's license. I'd be down there, I'd figure out a way to put it between where I was going and where I was almost every single time I got in the car, it seemed like. And we eventually started an IPMS chapter in my hometown in Tennessee, and there weren't many of us, and I ended up being treasurer of the IPMS chapter we formed there. And I think we lied on the IPMS charter form because I wasn't 18 yet. And the only reason it worked is because we didn't have any money, so I really didn't have any responsibilities. It just you had to fill the slot.
So you had a fake IPMS ID.
Pretty much, I think so.
Okay, I'll pretend I didn't hear any of that.
Yeah, Dave's the secretary of recruiting and retention for the IPMS USA. So
for the national. Do me one favor, Evan, is next time you're at a meeting and you see Steve Sauve, walk up behind him and slap him upside the head. Just tell him it was from me. Steve and I have known each other for many, many years. And in fact, about the only time I get to see him is at IPMS national contests, which unfortunately won't happen this year simply because of, the travel restrictions still being in place.
Yeah.
So, Evan, one thing we get a lot of is, folks have finally stopped asking so much, because I think they know we're not going to do it. You guys should be making YouTube videos. I'm like, no, I only have enough time in my life to do this podcast without a video element. We've heard some of the other guys talk about how long it takes them to make these videos. What's something like that for a typical production of yours? What are you looking at, for the time commitment to do that?
Honestly, it depends. If it's something like a basic video where I'm doing maybe a review of a set of tracks or like photo etch or something, like a review of something that's just maybe even a kit, that's actually pretty quick because you just film it. Maybe that takes you 45 minutes total. And then I've already got like a default editing file set up, which has the opening and all the proper stuff for a kit review, for example. So I just dump in the footage, edit it down a little bit. And that might take me a total of like 4 hours, maybe even less. Like, depending on the length of the video, of course, but maybe some of them I've even done it like an hour or so if it's a really quick video looking at a small piece of aftermarket. But then if I get into something like, we're going to weather this KV1, that's a lot bigger project, because you have to do all the weathering, and you're also filming it, which I've got a lot better at, having the camera angles and kind of knowing what to do just to make it not be a bother while I'm working. But usually about half your footage ends up being out of focus or bad lighting, bad angle, something like that, wasn't zoomed in properly. But you just have to kind of think about that. And honestly, if you show the whole weathering process, the video gets way too long. So you just show certain parts, this technique on a few areas, then you move on. And then when you edit it, that's probably most of the effort, because you have to cut off all the beginnings and endings of the clip where you're fiddling with the camera. You have to do the voiceover, speed it all up, get rid of stuff that's unnecessary. I don't write scripts for my videos. I just do it live. Often I have to kind of redo some parts because I don't know what I'm talking about sometimes. But if I were writing scripts, it'd take way too long. But it's not a painful process. I do have enjoyment in that, because it's almost like I'm rewatching my video or my process and kind of reflecting on what looked best, what I did, and what I'll take next time. And maybe I'll keep that the same, but I'll do the chipping a little bit differently. I'll do a different color. And also, like when you're taking photos of your models, sometimes you see all the crap you can't see when you're actually looking at it in real life. Same kind of thing in the video. You can see like, oh yeah, there's definitely like lint right there in that bit of paint I put on or whatever. And that's kind of like a learning thing as well. You see where you can improve and where you can fix some stuff afterwards while I'm editing. So it is a lot of work. If I don't want to say it doubles the time on a project, because that's not entirely true. Honestly, I just sit down sometimes on an evening and just kind of plow through the editing of a video. I do find that a build video is a lot more effort than a weathering or painting video. And I don't really know why, because it seems like you're just building a kit, but I don't know. It's just, I think it's because when you're painting and weathering, you're kind of doing the same thing over and over again. I'm just applying a wash. I'm just applying some streaks. But when you're building, you're putting a lot of different parts together, and it's a lot more complicated, and it feels like you have to show a lot more steps of it or something like that. Even though the steps might be shorter because they're individual parts or something, it just takes a lot more effort. And I find that I don't as much enjoy making videos of me building something. And also, I find that they're not maybe as helpful. At least this is in my mind. Other people might have a different opinion, but if I'm building a kit, I'm just following the instructions usually, and I'm not really teaching many tricks here. Maybe if I'm adding texture or I'm adding photo etch or stuff like that, then I'm actually adding something to what the kit instructions show. But there's no instructions in the kit how to paint and weather it. So that's kind of what I think is more what I enjoy showing people. But I also enjoy sometimes showing some build videos. Like I've got a T-34 project I'm working on now, a T-34-57, and I did film the build of that, but I focused more on modifications, texture, weld seams, what makes the 57mm variant unique. So the unique factory features and the gun and the special tracks. I'm not so much showing how to like sand road wheels or how to glue a hull together without seam lines. I'm doing like the special features of that vehicle and a couple of tricks like the photo etch and thinning the fenders and adding a little bit of damage there.
I notice on your YouTube channel, you're a little bit different than some of the guys out there. Some of the guys out there are rigid schedules. They'll post a video every week or every 2 weeks, like clockwork. And I understand because your life and, with going to college, graduating, moving out, etc., that, everybody has other things in their lives. But do you have any set idea of how often you want to release a video, or it's just whenever you've got something to say?
That has been on my mind now that I'm at the point where I'm going to start making videos again. And for a period, I did try to have a video. I was trying to upload on I think I was doing like Sunday or Saturday morning. I think I was doing. And it was like, once every 2 weeks or maybe once every week. But always on the Saturday morning. So, and there's a couple of benefits to that. First of all, people like, well, same thing with like night shift videos. Like you go on after work on a Friday, there's going to be a night shift video there. And that helps, like, because you could just relax with that. So same thing with that. Like if you're uploading a video at the same time every week or every 2 weeks or even every month, but that same time, people know when to tune in. And also YouTube, the algorithm, the magical algorithm does prefer, in terms of sharing your content around other people, they prefer people who have a rigid schedule. But I mean, I don't do this as a job, right? This is my hobby. So it's a little bit, if I'm going to be doing it every week, it kind of starts to feel like a job. And then is a little bit of a, it just gets a little bit more stressful because you have to, you're like, I have to get this done. I have to get this stuff done in my project. And you start speeding up and you start skipping stuff and you're not as pleased with your result as you would be if you took your time and had a more relaxing endeavor with that whole tank or this technique. And so sometimes I have been doing like weekly, like when I was doing a collaboration with Night Shift about a year ago, or I think it was around March 2020, maybe April, when we did the Tiger Ones, I had to start ahead of time because I couldn't keep up with him. He does like a video every week. And I was basically at the end, at the final video, I was like doing the couple steps like the day before that video went up. But for the first video, that was like a month before, or that video posted like a month after I'd done this technique. So I had to give myself a head start to be able to film all these sections of the video so that they would actually fit into my schedule because I couldn't do the individual steps fast enough on a weekly basis. That's also part of the reason why I have been doing more like 45-minute long weathering videos where you look at the whole thing. Like we're going to go from maybe not painting it, but we're going to start at like, we've applied the decals in the last video. Now we're just going to do filter, wash, streaking, dust, mud, and like we're going to do basically the whole weathering process. I prefer to do that and then do that like once a month rather than having individual videos on a weekly basis because, I don't know, it's just a little bit more relaxing to do the whole. And I think that it makes a little bit more sense to see the whole process like that. I mean, Night Shift does a great job of doing the individual techniques on a weekly basis on his videos. So I don't know.
Well, Evan, one of my favorite videos of yours, and I think I even, when it was on your YouTube page, well, not your Facebook page that supports your YouTube channel, I think I even made a comment about it. I thought it was your most concise and succinct video for doing what you do, and that was your How to Weather U.S. Olive Drab. And personally, I'd like to see some more of those for some of the other colors because I really thought that video, you're hitting on all cylinders. That's the only way I know how to say it.
I would agree. That video was almost like an experiment for me with something I wanted to do, which you just touched on, which was I wanted to do How to Weather Olive Drab, How to Weather 4BO Green, and then I was going to do like a Panzer Gray, Panzer Yellow, and then you get into like too much stuff after that. But I that was the plan, and I kind of was hoping on following it up with like the T-34 that's behind me here that's been sitting idle since August of last year, almost a year now. And I just, going back to my final year of university after my internship around that time was like, just, that's what put a big hold on all my videos. But I do want to do kind of like what I was saying there, where I want to look at more of just like a full process. And I guess that's not a full process because we don't do the mud and the dust, but I feel like the mud and the dust is more generic because if I'm doing a Russian tank and an American tank, they both end up being green. So when I'm applying the pigments and the mud and stuff like that, it's basically the same process.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But then when it comes to actually weathering the paint finish, it's a little bit different. So that I do want to do more of those. And I think when I do the T-34, I'm going to do the same kind of thing, which will be How to Weather 4BO Green after I do the build video on it.
It looks to me like that is the video on your entire channel that's had the most views by a fair amount. So obviously it's that was something that there was a lot of demand in.
How many views does it have right now?
52,000.
That's not bad. That's probably, I don't think that's the most viewed, but that's probably 5th most viewed, maybe 4th.
I'm looking down and
he's got a lot of videos.
I've yet to find one with more.
I think the standard weathering procedure on the Panzer one Desert and the Stoke 3 F8. Definitely, I think they're both over 100,000 by now.
Yeah, the painting field applied camo with Tamiya paints on the Stug was 129. So, yeah.
Yeah, some of these videos, they just seem to explode. And I think well, I mean, having a good thumbnail seems to definitely help. And that's something I need to get better at. But sometimes a video just seems to take off. And I'm not really sure why. Like, I've got one, which is like the top 5 beginner weathering techniques, which is probably a little bit more advanced than beginner weathering techniques. But I think it's more like if a beginner wants to take the next step into weathering, I think that's kind of what that video is more supposed to be. That video did really, really well. That's probably my most viewed video. I think it has like hundreds of thousands of views now. And, I could keep making content like that kind of caters towards making a lot of views, but I don't know if I want to, I don't want to force my own content. It's going to start feeling like a job again, like I was saying before.
Sure.
Sometimes I just want to review a new kit, or review some metal tracks. It's more, I just want to share with my loyal follower base, essentially, kind of just, what I'm up to. And I don't know, it's a little bit, my channel is a little bit informal in that way, where I just kind of want to hang out with people in the comments section or in the videos and just kind of be like, yeah, this is what I think of this new kit. There's some new techniques I might want to try. Here's a new product you haven't heard of. But I do also want to do those videos that are kind of more generic, like how to weather 4BO green, I think would be a cool one.
Yes, it would. And that's one of the things Mike and I have enjoyed most about doing the podcast is all of the interaction, either through email or through our Facebook page, when, you just, somebody out of the blue drops a comment that leads to a discussion that you never even considered before, or one that got you rethinking something that you always did. It's, this is a solitary hobby, but it's amazing when you get together with other modelers, the synergy that can take place.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, as I touched on earlier, when I first started with the YouTube videos, it was because I enjoyed the YouTube modeling community on those, at the time, few YouTube channels that actually did it. Of course, now there's maybe even thousands of YouTube modeling channels.
Oh, yeah.
At the time, there was maybe like 5 big ones, at least the ones that I watched. There was mainly just 3. But I did enjoy the community. Like, it was just like, it's a solitary thing. Often you're doing it alone when you're actually building the kit. But when you're like sharing what you learned, then it's more of like a community group activity where you're talking with other people and you're learning from their mistakes and what they've done in the past. And that's also why I enjoyed when I first started going to that local club who taught me everything I know. When I was 15 years old, I kept going every 2 weeks when we had it, because it was just so much fun. And I mean, I'm just a 15-year-old kid, so what else do I have to do on a weekday evening? Just go hang out with the old dudes and just talk about old model kits, I guess. I love the community here, and I guess it's also why I want to go to more shows, because that's almost like the community, but actually in person, which to me is something that's a little bit missing with the lack of shows here, really.
One of the great things about going to shows is that ability to meet and talk in person with guys that you have only interacted with online.
Yeah.
Because it just adds a whole nother dimension to the interaction. And then once you've done it, once you've interacted with somebody at a show, next time you're interacting with them online, it's different because you know them in a different way.
Yeah. When I was at the Chicago 2017 World Expo, I did meet some guys I knew from YouTube. And honestly, when I met them at first, it was like I already knew them a little bit, because even though we've, maybe we Skyped a little bit, or we just watched each other's videos and talk in the comment section, but it's like you already kind of know this person a little bit. So it's almost like you're catching up with an old friend from school or whatever. But then after the show, it's just so much better whenever you're talking with them online, because you actually know that person. And then you can't wait to meet them again at the next show, really.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
I miss that so much.
Absolutely.
Well, and your local scene seems good too. Dave and I have been longtime members of a really, really strong club in Louisville, Kentucky down here. And it just seems like when we first started the podcast, I was like, God, everybody's from Ottawa. What's going on up there? And, Ian and I've got to be pretty good friends, and Chris has been on the show, and we're going to get them guys back on at some point here in the near future. But it's just been great getting to know those guys. But it just seems like you got some good shops up there, and you have a really good community.
Well, and in addition to that, man, the Canadians really punch above their weight when it comes to modeling. I mean, it is amazing how big a presence the Canadian modelers have on the modeling scene.
Yeah, I remember you talking about this during Chris's interview, Model Airplane Maker.
Yeah.
And I kind of didn't really, it wasn't in my mind before because I've only really known the modeling scene here and I haven't really gone internationally that much. I mean, you guys are the experts, and I'm sure that, I don't know, I personally, like here, it's what I've always known. All the modeling shops that we have here in the community has been great. But I guess I'm a little privileged with how other people have it in other places.
Well, I think we are too, but that's what makes it fun. Grateful to have it. I'm sure you are too up there.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to ask a question that just got to ask. We talk about all the benefits of the, modeling online, YouTube, social media, etc. Other than what we discussed about the time it takes for you to actually produce a video, have you encountered any downsides from your YouTube experience?
Sometimes they get like some troll comments that are like really just low effort.
Low effort, and, I like that.
You just like, I honestly haven't had anybody really go after me and be really that mean. I just occasionally get a troll comment and I'm just like, yeah. Often I'll just leave it. And sometimes I've had people in my comment section like take care of them for me, tell them to get lost or whatever. And sometimes if they do it a couple of times, I'll just block their channel. But because if you're not really contributing to the intelligent discussion in the comment section, there's not really much point to it. I mean, the YouTube comment section, not in modeling videos, but in general, and just normal videos, is usually like one of the worst places on the internet. It's just full of so much filth.
Yes, it's a sewer.
Yeah, the modeling channels are pretty good. So I don't want it to become like that. So I mean, yeah, we have a pretty good community, so I haven't really seen much of that at all, apart from the occasional troll. But no, I haven't really had anybody like bully me or make fun of me. Or I had somebody re-upload one of my videos once. So that was kind of weird.
Really? You mean they pirated it, the video?
Yeah, they downloaded it and re-uploaded it. And then they had like 30 views, and I just told YouTube to get rid of it. But overall, it's I think the only really downside to making a YouTube modeling channel is just the extra effort it takes to do the videos and the editing and stuff. And it's just, you could, if you weren't doing videos, maybe you could get an extra kid in per year with that time, but I don't really want to. I enjoy sharing it. And I find that I'm not only sharing, like when I upload a video and I show a technique or whatever, I get good feedback in the comments as well. And that helps me progress. People share their techniques or other videos or so on. And definitely it's not a one-way street. I get good feedback back from it as well.
Well, our experience with the podcast has been, we get some feedback about, helping with techniques and stuff, but there's only so much we can do in an audio format for that kind of thing. We can give suggestions and tell how we do things, and maybe somebody can go look online and find a video of something similar and go from there. But we get a lot of comments about, and largely it's because of the pandemic. It's what having these podcasts has meant to other people. And, we talked before we started recording about how it's nice to be able to listen to something without the video distraction that's related to your interests. And we get a lot of that, but we get a lot of feedback from folks who have been isolated from their clubs and their communities because of the pandemic. And we've kind of helped fill the void there. So that's been fun. Do you get much of that?
I'm not too sure. I mean, it's probably, I expect so, honestly, but I haven't really had many people comment about that. Mainly because it's not really much different than what I was doing before, and they might be kind of used to it. What I do get is people checking in on me sometimes when I don't upload videos in a while, making sure I haven't died of the COVID or whatever. Like, People
Yeah.
making sure I'm all right, and I do appreciate that.
In your modeling journey, what's your favorite part of the hobby, do you think?
And my favorite part of building a model is the weathering aspect of it. And my favorite part of the hobby might be sharing that, or just the whole encompassing aspect of weathering, including looking at other people's videos, looking at people's posts on Facebook, chatting with them on the Facebook posts about how they did this weathering thing. I mean, I also enjoy building. As I said before, I painting I find is my weak link. I like building stuff. I find that painting is a struggle for me sometimes. And then decaling is always just a nightmare. And then when I get to weathering, like, I've now jumped the barrier that was the painting, and now I can get into weathering, and I really like that. So, yeah, I like weathering, and I enjoy sharing and learning from the people about weathering as well, because that's where I find I can be most creative, and I just love to sit down and spend a whole evening breathing in enamel thinner fumes and, and making a tank look dirty.
Well, maybe you already answered it in the kind of in explaining your answer to that question prior. But what do you like the least? Trolls on your YouTube channel excluded. You've already mentioned that. But in the process of modeling, what's the biggest drag for Evan?
Yeah, like I said, painting I find is the part that makes me sometimes put a model away for a little bit. I've got a lot of kits that are actually, I think I probably have more kits that are built and then sitting there in the finished plastic than I have actually finished in weather, because I find that sometimes I just want to build a cool vehicle and I don't really think about painting it. I don't really think about how I'm going to paint it. I just want to build this interesting vehicle. And so I build it, and then I'm like, well, I just put it aside until I get inspiration for how to finish it. And then other times I had a vision, but I just kind of get nervous about how to execute it purely in the painting aspect. And then I guess I kind of lose my enthusiasm on that build, and then usually I have something else going on at the time, so I move on to that one, and then I start something else, and then the one that was put aside kind of just tends to sit there. And I guess it's kind of sad, but at least it's something that's finished. Like, if I was stopping kits halfway through the build, that's a little bit more, I don't know, disheartening, I guess, for me, because then I have to make sure I don't lose track of all the extra parts that aren't attached to it and the box and everything, because I might want to go back to it. But if it's entirely built and ready for primer, I sometimes I just let it sit for a while until I get the inspiration or the push to paint it. But I don't know why I'm so apprehensive about airbrushing, because I actually had an airbrush before I built my first model kit, because I had that from my model railroading. So when I built my first model tank, I airbrushed it. Like, I was airbrushing from the very start. I was not brush painting my first model tanks. But I just kind of always, I don't know, airbrushing is a little bit scary to me. I always worry I'm going to ruin the finish, or, yeah, I don't know. It's just, that's the thing I need to progress more on, my painting skills. And, usually it ends up fine with the weathering and everything. Any little areas that weren't perfect end up being covered or fixed or everything. So it's one of those fears that's just kind of not really valid, I guess, or whatever. It's not really something to be that worried about, but sometimes that's what stops my build process or stops it from progressing to weathering.
Yeah, I think every modeler has whatever has that area that can be a choke point for them, where it's okay, I'm coming up to the point where I'm doing something that either I don't enjoy, or I don't feel comfortable with, or I don't feel confident about. One of the things that happens for me is the closer the model gets to being finished, the more hesitation I have, especially if the build is going well, because you feel like I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah. For me, honestly, it's probably the opposite. The closer and closer I get to finishing something, especially in the weathering stages where I'm getting closer and closer to the end, I am more and more excited to see how it will look in the end. And I never really have problems in weathering that ruin a model. I've never had something just like ruin all the paint finish or whatever, make it bubble up or whatever. I haven't really ever experienced that. So I guess maybe if I have a nightmare scenario eventually, that might change my opinion here. But I actually find the closer and closer I end to finishing something, the more push I have and the more likely it is that I'm going to actually finish it. It's almost like the closer I get to the end, the more work I'll be consistently putting on one project. Now, I actually have something else for another part that I am apprehensive about. A part of a model that might be a choke point, like you said there. That was a good term. I also find that clear parts and decals and masking are tricky for me. And that's one of the reasons why I'm apprehensive about building aircraft, because you gotta do a lot of that. There's a lot of decals, there's a lot of masking canopies, a lot of clear parts, filling seams perfectly. These are all areas that I do not have a lot of experience in, and that I just kind of am apprehensive about. And honestly, building an airplane kit would be a great way for me to, get past those skills and improve them further in my armor models as well. But
let me give you the one tip I can give you about aircraft modeling.
All right.
Don't build any model for which there are not pre-cut masks for the canopy. Life is too short. That is, to me, the greatest advance in. I've been modeling now, longer than I care to think, but the greatest advance in all that time in modeling has been the pre-cut canopy mask.
Yeah.
Because before, those canopies used to take forever. They were difficult. It was tricky. You could screw it up. It was the worst part of the model.
Yeah, that's a big choke point.
Yeah, at least for me. And now with pre-cut masks, the Edward ones or some of the other ones, you can mask a canopy in 15 minutes, and the result that you get once you peel the masks off, if you've sealed them and gotten them pressed down correctly, it's amazing how much better that it looks than the best hand masking job I ever did in my life. So my one tip to you as you venture into aircraft modeling is, don't ever build a kit for which there aren't pre-cut masks.
Similarly, one of my, like I said, I suffer a lot with decals. And so on armor kits, I have really enjoyed masking sets. You don't have to put down the decals. Instead, you get the mask that is like the star or the Russian slogan. Similarly, I find that's a way to help me along that choke point of decals. But as we were discussing before that we started recording here, the kit that I have set aside to do hopefully this year, originally it was going to be last year, but now it's this year. The first airplane kit I want to do is an Edward 1/48 scale MiG-21 that comes with those masks. And that's one of the reasons why I bought that. I knew that this kit had the masks in it, and it's an interesting aircraft to me. I do enjoy aircraft. Like, I know I took aerospace engineering. I like aircraft, but because my interest in model kits came from my history aspect, I got into it more into the armor side. But now I do want to do an aircraft, and I think that'll be a great learning experience. That's why I picked an easy one that has the masks and the pre-painted photo etch and everything.
Well, you picked a good one, no doubt.
Well, Dave, you got anything else for Evan?
Nope. This has been enjoyable as heck, man. I've really enjoyed this, and I love your YouTube channels. And now that you're settled into an apartment and you're out of university and
getting a paycheck.
Yeah. Now that you're doing all that, I'm looking forward to you dropping more YouTube videos, especially like I said, others in the series of that olive drab one, 4BO, Panzer Gray, Panzer Yellow. Those the first one was great, and I'd love to see a series of those.
Yeah, definitely more of those coming. I've got a couple of projects set aside for some of those finishes coming soon, I guess. The one I said coming soon, it's probably going to be a month or two before I even actually get those videos up, but they'll come along.
Good.
Well, good. We look forward to it. Evan, I'm glad we got together. I appreciate you sticking with us during all this scheduling back and forth over a number of months. But and our mutual friend Ian kind of helped us out there a little bit by making the contact and reminding you a time or two, and then it finally worked out. So it's been a pleasure talking to you. I wish you the best in your new vocation. It'll be a good career. Keep on modeling, man. We appreciate all you do for the community.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, Mike, that was an interesting discussion. We're getting to the end of a very long episode, and time for shout outs. Do you have a shout out for this episode?
Well, first off, I'd like to shout out to Chris Church and Joel Sherwood for sponsoring this episode of Plastic Model Mojo. If you'd like to help out along the lines that they've helped out, you can do so by going to www.plasticmodelmojo.com. In the upper right-hand corner of the homepage, you will find a heart icon. You can use that to make a direct PayPal contribution to Plastic Model Mojo, and we really appreciate it. We've gotten big donations. We've gotten small donations. We've gotten donations all across the spectrum. We appreciate all of them equally. It's just unbelievable the response we've gotten to this, and it's really made it a lot easier for Dave and I to get our equipment together for future travel shows, and just paying the hosting costs and bringing this stuff to you guys every other week. We really appreciate it. We thank you so much. And Joel Sherwood is an East Tennessee fella, lives close to my hometown. I need to meet up with him now that the pandemic's kind of tamped down a little bit, and maybe we can have a face-to-face over a couple of beers.
I was going to say, share some modeling fluid.
That's right. Share some modeling fluid.
My shout out this episode is for the Harder and Steenbeck Infinity. I've mentioned this before. I've blogged about it before, but I continue to be amazed by this airbrush. You know, it's like driving a Ferrari. It's very sensitive. It's you know, it's not a Badger 150 where you can just kind of throw anything into it and spray it. But man, if you are spraying details, if you are spraying fine lines, or if you are spraying freehand in controlled tight spaces, this airbrush, though it is more expensive than others, this is one of those times, and there's a lot of those times, where you get what you pay for. It is an amazing airbrush. And I appreciate Jim Bates and Dr. Strangebrush turning me on to it. And every time I use it, I am amazed yet again. And boy, that Weller sounds good, tastes good.
It's been an enjoyable podcast.
So do you have a shout out, Mike?
I got one more. We're going to circle back around on that note to Mr. Ethan Curd from Versailles, Kentucky. Sir, we salute you for giving us a nice bottle of bourbon to enjoy the show with and enjoy our 4th of July holiday with. Just real good. Really appreciate it, man. I just, when I pulled that out of the bag, I couldn't believe it. That was a good gesture. Most appreciated.
Sir, you are doing God's work. I'll tell you what, this is our 42nd episode. We've had a modeling fluid every single time. This is by far the best modeling fluid I've ever had on the show. And I salute you. You have done good work in the service of Plastic Model Mojo.
Well, all right, Dave. I think we're at the end of this now.
I think so too. Mike, let's sign off and enjoy the rest of our Weller. You know what they say. So many kits.
So little time, Dave.
You got it. Take care.